The CCC created thousands of opportunities and at the same time restored hope in the nation. Um, there were hundreds of camps and programs created in the nation, but there were 79 programs created here in Oklahoma between the years of 1933 and 1941. The camps varied in identification because there were so many. They needed a way to identify each of them. The types of camps included Army military reservations, agriculture, federal game refuge, biological survey, federal reclamation projects, state land, county parks, private land, public domain, drainage, private land erosion, um, Department of State Parks, Department of National Parks, Department of Forestry, National Forest, Grazing Service, Glacier National Park, Municipal Area, National Monument, Military Park, National Arboretum, Naval Military Reservation, National, oh, sit down, private land erosion, and soil conservation. Um, in Oklahoma, there were 8 national forests, 1 national park, 23 state parks, 2 federal game refuges, 33 soil conservations, 7 private forests, 3 state forests, and 3 military reservations. Of course, like most programs, the CCC went through some struggles when trying to get up and running, but once they got past those, they were very successful. The 2 main purposes that um, the president wanted to accomplish included the hopes that proper diet, outdoor life, and useful work would help men to regain faith in themselves and in their country. Also, Roosevelt envisioned that the CCC would provide the necessary labor for various conservation projects designed to revitalize overworked agricultural land, reverse soil erosion, and implement reforestation.
Okay. I have the national parks, state parks, and national forest. The national parks were meant to preserve a symbol of the nation's pride and to allow the nation's individuals to enjoy the natural beauty and protect it from being taken away. The CCC workers that were in those camps just basically worked to preserve the parks. We only have one of those. And state parks were created out of the proper land use and need base. Park designers thought everyone deserved to have recreational play despite the rough conditions that were of the time. And they purchased land by donated money, and the CCC camp workers worked to develop the land. And then national forests they were a lot like national parks. They're naturally created, and the CCC workers helped with any projects in the forest. Some of the projects were recreational facilities, especially trails, trail shelters, campgrounds, scenic vistas, truck trails, guard and ranger stations, lookouts, telephone lines, and they fought forest fires. And like he said, there were 8 national forest camps and 23 state park camps.
And much like national forests, state forests were large wooded areas protected by forest services. A nickname given to the people that were working in the forests were Roosevelt's Tree Army, and they had many objectives when working there. There's a lot of trees and brush that needed to be cleared in order for the park to be enjoyed by the public. Logging was a huge part of this process. But however, with logging came piles of brush and slash, which made the danger of a fire more severe. But once they cleared this hazard, they didn't stop there. They also had to fight off a moth infestation, and this meant that they had to kill as many egg masses as possible.
Okay. So I will be doing the federal game refuges, soil conservations, and then some of the forest projects. So first of all, there was the Wichita Mountains National Wildlife Refuge. It was first initially done in 1901, which is earlier than the CCC, but it goes through a series of transitions and added land that was added to it, and then as it comes up to the CCC, which is around 1930s, and that during that time it's donated. It's the its control is then transferred over to the Bureau of Biological Survey. And then, so the refuge's main purposes and services basically are it protects different species of game, and it protects the natural landscape itself, and then it can also provide recreational activities such as hiking or sightseeing, and just ways to enjoy the undisturbed land. And then moving on to soil conservation, it was okay. So the federal government implemented a system, SCS, which offered benefits to individuals or states to implement laws that got the effect that the federal government was desiring. So, for instance, they would say, okay, so here in Oklahoma, we're issuing a law, and for drainages, for water runoffs, there has to be grass or some type of plant life to kind of root the soil in place, so that it minimizes erosion. And then a quote from one of the sources I got that explains this. Farmers signed 5-year agreements to install grassed outlets and grassed waterways, to vegetate gully areas, to build grade stabilization structures, and concord terraces. Then there was practice pasture management, strip cropping under longer rotation, and so there's a series of different requirements that each state had to implement to then get these benefits. So that is how they accomplished their goals, basically. Okay, and then for the different forests, one of the first projects was the Shelter Belt project, and that was first started in the 1930s. And one of its main purposes was to help counteract the effects of the Dust Bowl effect that they were suffering from. And this project was basically plant trees, and each state had to at least dedicate 1 acre of land of pine seedlings. Okay, so trees, basically. And this would help counteract the effects of the Dust Bowl, simply enough. And so it would act as a windbreaker. And then the ages for at least the forest projects were 18 to 26. And so the thing that I got from most of these projects was it wasn't just let's create jobs to do pointless projects just to create jobs. It was a win-win in the fact that it created jobs and it provided necessary jobs that needed to get done. For instance, the addition of forests to help counteract the Dust Bowl or whatever. So that's what really interested me, just the fact that it wasn't just let's create all these pointless jobs. So
yeah, it was very purposeful. I was going to finish up with the military reserves. There was 3 in the state of Oklahoma, and I stated before, one of the goals of Roosevelt was to restore and salvage the young men and the hope of the nation. So one way they did this was through the military, and some of the functions that they had included enrolling, training, and preserving the program. These reservations built up pretty much each branch, and they helped to get a much stronger military and to serve to bring our nation closer. And they also had a upbringing and preparation in the armies for the upcoming wars.
Okay.